Morning, Brooks.
Good morning.
Brooks, it's great to have you on the show this morning. And, I want to start out by saying you provide a great, and I want to underline that word great, you provide a great service for your 1958 Anderson High School classmates. And we want our listeners to know about it. First, if you would, tell us a bit about yourself. Then tell us about some of the things you do for your 1958 AHS classmates. And if you'd like to share some of the how you do what you do with our listeners, we'd certainly appreciate it. Take it away.
Well, Marv, I guess, beginning, went to Anderson High School. What a wonderful high school. You couldn't ask for a better school to go to. And through the years, I was elected class president 3 of the 4 years, and I was also student council president in the senior year. And then after that, went to General Motors Institute and was an engineer, worked at Guide for 40 years. And during that time, also got involved when I was a very early age in Soapbox derbies and won the Anderson race. And then my brothers won the national race. And then later became the derby director for Madison County. And then later on was elected to the Hall of Fame in Akron, Ohio for the Soapbox Derby. And then I kind of got out of Soapbox derbies and got involved with designing bobsleds for the Winter Olympics. And we've been very, very successful with that. And it's a real challenge. It's much different than I thought in terms of dealing with the athletes and so on. It's been an awful lot of fun. But over the years too, was very with our class. So we had just a wonderful class, Marv. I can't begin to tell you how great our class is.
Right.
And but I never dreamed when I was elected senior class president that the word reunion, I never even thought about it.
I have to stop you for a moment because I know how great your class is and was because I just happened to marry one of your members. Hello, Ann. Go ahead.
Well, and like I say, I never thought about the reunion. And then after I got out of college and then thought, whoa, this is missing here. We need to get all of our kids back together again.
Right.
And it kind of started, and it just kind of evolved from that. Instead of having reunions every 5 years like some classes do. Of course, some classes never have any reunions.
Right.
And some classes have a 25th and maybe a 50th. But we have one every 2 or 3 years.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And you shared with me this morning before we came on the air, you shared with me a very unique thing about the fact that unlike a lot of classes, including our class of 1951, your class, to have these reunions, you don't have committee meetings.
No, we don't, Marv. Our last committee meeting was over 30 years ago.
Right.
And it's real easy though. I learned many years ago that committees don't seem to work real well. And in our case, all I have to do, we've got some very, very dependable and reliable people in our class.
Right.
And all it takes is a phone call. I call up, Nancy Neiman and say, Nancy, hey, will you take care of the registration table? And she calls up Patty Krebs and Carolyn Lazenby and Camille Roudabush, and they take care of the table. And then I'll call up Camille and Karen Bookout and say, hey, we need some decorations. And no problem, the job done. And then call Phil Sullivan, Ron McNamee. They take care of the golf outing, and Dan Motto and Ron Clark. They always do the invitation for our reunion. And then my daughter Kim, she takes care of taking photos at the reunion of everybody as they come in. And then, of course, my wife, Pam, she's there. She just does a little bit of everything for us. And so, no, we don't have committee meetings. I make a few phone calls, and I know that they're very reliable people, and they'll do the job. And so it's pretty easy for me, really, when I know there are people like that in our class that I can count on.
Right. And, we also talked a little bit about how you do what you do this morning. I asked you the question. You related to me that your senior class of 1958, had a membership. The number was about how many?
Well, we started out, with over 700.
Right.
And then after they built Highland and Madison Heights, we ended up with about 400.
Right.
And then we've had just a little over 100 pass away, so we're down to about 300 now.
Right. And of course, you send the email to me, and I share it with Ann, and you tell things about your classmates, good and bad. The things, when I say bad, I'm referring to the illnesses and things that we all sooner or later go through, and the passing of individuals. You really do a great job of keeping people up to date, and of course I share that with Ann.
Well, I appreciate that, Marv. It's to me, communications and keeping the key. There are several keys to keeping this class together is the communications, and we also have we got a fellow in our class, Jay Idleman, that I can't say enough good about the guy. He takes care of our website. And he just does a fabulous job with audio and video work, and he's going to be putting together a link for us for all of our classmates for after today that I'll be sending emails to everyone, and it'll have a link that set up, and you'll be able to listen to this show and also see the old photos from the past in high school and our past reunions. And so, but Jay just does a wonderful job there. But our emails, it's been a blessing too that we've had computers come along. It makes things a lot easier by contacting people through emails. Right. And so things that happen during the month or sometime during the week that are very important, then I email everyone. And then for the ones that don't have email, then I send out the snail mail. I get things printed to them and mail it to them. And that comes around every couple of months to kind of keep them up to date also.
Right. I'm going to read and maybe even repeat a few discussion points that we had shared earlier. And after I do that, please continue with your remarks. Okay, I want to go back to reminding our listeners that you were the Anderson Soapbox Derby champion in 1955 and Madison County Soapbox Derby director from 1965 to 1975. In our earlier conversation, you also mentioned that you had some brothers who were champions, even national Soapbox Derby champions. You were inducted into the All-American Soapbox Derby Hall of Fame in 2008. And here's something you didn't mention. The track here in Anderson was dedicated and rightfully, I might say, named Townsend Hill in 1994. And also an award given to the senior boy at Anderson High School, the J.C. Daddy Black Award. I believe you were the winner of that. And one other thing, I'd be remiss if I didn't bring this up again, because I think this could be some interesting things to share with our listeners. You designed bobsleds for the Olympics from 2008 to the present. So you're still doing that?
Yes, still very involved with it. I do my part. We've got really a couple guys working on it right now. That I do my part, and in my mind, I do a very small part. But it's one of those team things. But yes, in fact, I have a plug or a mold out in my barn right now for what we think will be the next Olympic champ, two-man sled. I've got the mold out in my barn right now, and so we're going to start. We've got a fellow coming from Utah, here in a couple months, and he'll be at my house, and we're going to be refinishing that mold. And we'll probably get the shell, we call it a shell, made down in Indianapolis at one of the IndyCar places. And so we're looking forward. We're not real sure right now who's going to be driving the two-man sled. We've got a lot of offers from really other countries even. Right now there's interest in, and this is kind of hard to believe, but we've got interest from Russia and Switzerland, Canada, Jamaica. So
wow, bobsleds in Jamaica.
Yeah, yeah. It's been a lot of fun, and it's pretty challenging. But yeah, I'm still very involved in it.
You know, I'm curious. How did you go from Soapbox to bobsled? And I know that was a long period of time, I'm sure, but how did that happen?
Well, it happened. I had a very good friend that many years ago we were competitive against each other, actually, and we were great friends. And then we both kind of got out of the Soapbox derbies, and he called me one time and said, "Hey, Brooks," he says, I'm involved in something here, and he said, "I think you could probably help me out." And he said, "I know you're a sharp on this kind of stuff, and you're a good engineer." I said, "What is it?" He said, "Well, bobsled," and I didn't know a thing about it, you know. And but I said, "Well, I'll do what I can, Ollie." And so one thing after another. And so I've been to the tracks at Lake Placid, New York several times, along with my family, and tracks out at Park City, Utah. The United States only has 2 tracks, and sadly in the United States, bobsledding is not a real well-known sport like basketball, football, and whereas if you go to Canada and Europe, it's a whole different ball game. Those athletes are held in high esteem. But you mentioned rewards. Rewards. To me in class reunion, my reward in doing what I do for our class, I may get a little, it may be a little touchy for me, Mark, but my reward comes when we have these reunions and lunches, and I see those classmates hugging each other and shaking hands, and what a reward that is to know, and to get together and talking about the good old days at Anderson High School, and the basketball games and everything, and we were fortunate our senior year. We beat Christmas Addicts, and and that was something that very few schools could do, and we did, and those kind of things. Though, but my reward, Marv, it comes from just seeing people, seeing each other again, and we had our 50th reunion, Marv. We had kids that came from 21 different states to our reunion, and so I thought that's pretty incredible.
Yes, life is so short, and get all you can get from it. And, you and I saw each other, I'll never forget this, at the passing of Larry Wood. And I said to you that day, I said, what you do is such a great thing. You ought to come on the inside pitch and do what we're doing now came from that. But you do such a great job of keeping your classmates in touch with each other. And to those of you listening out there, you need to consider doing what he's doing. And Brooks, if somebody wanted to have you come out and talk to their group about how you do these things, or if they want to get in touch with you, what's the best way for them to get in touch with you?
Well, they can call me. My number's in the phone book. We live actually in Pendleton, but they could give me a call. I would be tickled to death to talk to them about it. It's to at least get them started, because sometimes taking that first step is the biggest one, and it is a big step. And then once they get started, and then they can decide later on whether they want to have more than one reunion or not.
Sure.
And so it'll just depend too on the quality of people that will make up the committee if they start with. And like I say, I've been very blessed to have people in our class that are just extremely reliable, dedicated people.
Yes. Well, you mentioned a magic word there. You said Pendleton, and it just so happens that our producer here, Nick Isbell, is a graduate of Pendleton Heights. And during the break, we were talking a little bit about the best time maybe to get started on doing what you do. And Nick, you may have a question there.
Well, I just kind of want you, Brooks, to expand a little bit on what you said earlier before the commercial break, where, I graduated in 2009, and everyone, goes to college and goes and starts their life and everything. But, I got about another 4 years. My 10-year anniversary is coming up for my high school reunion. And I just want you to go a little bit more in depth on how, you said, kind of just started off with a small meeting at first with the people that we really want to help. After that step, where did you guys take it? Because I've always learned looking at the past will help you in the future. So where did you guys take it after that big first initial meeting?
Well, our first reunion was a 10-year reunion.
Okay.
It's next to impossible to have a 5-year reunion.
Yeah.
Just too many things going on, so many different directions. So we had our first one a 10-year, but we had our first meeting. And like I say, I gathered together, I'm going to say maybe 8 or 10, the classmates, and we kind of put together what we thought we'd want to do at our first reunion. And then at that time, I said, kind of delegated and said, hey, here's some names, see if you can find them. And then we got together a second time and put together all the names and addresses, email addresses, telephones, so on and so forth. And then, like I say, we at that time had decided on a place where we wanted to have it, and what entertainment. In our case, we had Buddy Patterson, and of course, Buddy, he's just a super guy, and we've had him as our disc jockey for every reunion we've ever had, and it's so. But you after your first couple of meetings, you'll start. But you need to have that first meeting, I would say, at least a year ahead of time, at least, and then go from there. But but you have to also, it's like everything, you need to set deadlines.
Yeah.
Say, if we've got to have this done by now, or, like finding a place, because so many places get booked up.
Yeah.
That's another reason that you need to get things done soon, and a lot of the other things will fall in place for you.
So basically, the first couple of meetings, just kind of trying to track down everyone, get a big phone list of everyone, so you know where they're at and everything. Okay.
Yes, and like I say, you need to determine soon where you want to have your reunion, and also if you're going to cater, if you need to cater, that's important too, because they get booked up, and if you want a disc jockey or whatever, those people, you got to firm those up at least, I would say, at least 6 months ahead of time.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Brooks, a while ago, you commented that when you thought back about your classmates and you thought back about these wonderful times, and I'm sitting here and I was watching you as you were talking, and you didn't really swell up in tears, but you had a little lump in your throat. And I mentioned something to Ann the other day. We were watching an Arnold Palmer special, and it showed where Arnie Palmer had kept all of the letters that he had ever received from fans and kept them in a little shack that he had built and everything. And as he spoke, the tears swelled up in his eyes, and I said to Ann, you know what, I wouldn't give you 2 cents for a guy who can't do that. And maybe that's a little blunt, but hey, men, there's nothing wrong with getting a lump in your throat, a few tears in your eyes when you think back to wonderful memories. And maybe we just kind of let that macho bit go, and sometimes it's okay to have a good cry, especially about something sweet. Your thoughts?
Well, I agree, Marv. We when we have our lunches, which we have 2 lunches a year, along with reunions every 2 or 3 years, there is a lot of crying going on. at those lunches and reunions.
Yes, and you know, I look up at the clock and I'm reminded of these sad words. Another edition of the Inside Pitch comes to a close, and Brooks Townsend, we thank you for being our guest on today's program, and we thank you for your continuing work for the Anderson High School class of 1958. I'm Marvin Lau, and thanks for listening to the Inside Pitch.
Thank you very much, everyone. We'll meet you again. May God bless you.
Ladies and gentlemen, Elvis has left the building. Thank you and good night.